A very good evening to you and many thanks for making time to be with us on this 6th day of November 2024. I do believe you had a wonderful day and you're just in time for K24 evening edition. Now, Donald Trump has been elected the 47th President of the United States, defeating Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, this marks a remarkable comeback for the former president who just 4 years ago refused to accept his election laws, leading to a violent insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. Now, since then, he has faced felony convictions and survived 2 alleged assassination attempts. With his firm stance on key issues, especially immigration restrictions, what could his presidency mean for Africa, and particularly for Kenya? That's where we start tonight, but first of all, the highlights.
Frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country.
He is back. USA decides Donald Trump it is. Just what does a second Trump presidency mean for Kenya?
You are in the receivership. There's no relief. You're only going to get relief when you come out of receivership.
Kenyans will face continued tax burdens as President William Ruto's economic advisor, Devin D, announces there will be no tax relief.
So students who cannot afford are forced to drop out. That is a concern to us.
Plus, it is not adding up. University body tells the National Assembly fears about availability of funds for continuing students. Also tonight, from confusion in health insurance and community health promoters, more symptoms of an ailing health sector. Now, welcome to the program. I am Ian Keitani and our sign language interpreter is Clement Muli. Remember, you can watch this bulletin live across our social media platforms at K24 TV. We begin our bulletin now, and Donald Trump has clinched a victory in the U.S. presidential election. This result brings widespread reaction, including here in Kenya, with many curious about the impact this would have on our economy and foreign policy ties. Brother Mwai opens our bulletin tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President-elect Donald J. Trump, First Lady Melania Trump.
Dressed in hats bearing the slogan, "Make America Great Again," Trump's campaign slogan, and with others draped in the American flag, Trump supporters filled the streets and various venues to celebrate his victory. He is the 45th and 47th President of the United States. Trump won in key states of North Carolina, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, a state often seen as a crucial battleground in the race for the White House, allowing him to surpass the minimum requirement of 270 electoral votes that brought him back to the presidency. After winning Pennsylvania, Trump secured 277 electoral college votes, delivering a significant blow to Kamala Harris's dream of becoming the first female president of the United States. But even before his competitor, Democratic Party candidate Vice President Kamala Harris had conceded, President-elect Donald J. Trump took to the stage to pronounce his win, terming the victory as a historic movement in the history of the United States of America.
We made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy? But it's a political victory that our country has never seen before, nothing like this. So
Trump is the second president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms after Grover Cleveland in the 19th century. He returns with anti-immigration message and a promise to improve the economy after years of inflation across various commodities.
we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country.
Years before running for the presidency 3 times in a row, 78-year-old Donald J. Trump was a flamboyant billionaire in the United States. His life as a wealthy real estate mogul in New York, best represented by Trump Tower, his famous building and home for many years, was a staple of tabloid magazines and television for decades before he tried his luck in leading America.
Project that Donald Trump.
World leaders have already congratulated Trump. India's Narendra Modi and Hungary's Viktor Orban, who hailed Trump's unprecedented return to political power, while others offered more cautious congratulations. With mixed anticipations on what role the incoming administration would play in the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia, Ukrainian President Zelensky did not fail to mention the US's support, saying he was hoping for continued support on the same. Kremlin, on their end, failed to give a detailed message, with former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev offering a more comprehensive statement through his social media account, saying, "Trump has one useful quality for us. As a businessman to the core, he mortally dislikes spending money on various hangers-on and stupid hanger-on allies, on bad charity projects, and on voracious international organizations," he wrote on Telegram. Here in Kenya, President William Ruto also joined other world leaders in congratulating Trump, hailing him as a candidate who possesses visionary, bold, and innovative leadership. In a statement on X, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua said Trump's victory is proof that resilience triumphs over obstacles on the path to destiny. As news of Trump's victory unfolded, Huldah Hitsley Momanyi, a Kenyan from Nyamira County living in the U.S., made history by winning a seat in the Minnesota House of Representatives, becoming the first Kenyan-born politician to hold such a position in the United States. Momanyi, who ran on the Democratic former Labour Party ticket, secured 64.78% of the votes, while her opponent, Brad Olson of the Republican Party, received 34.95%. Alan Wino for K24.
Well, after winning the presidential election in the United States, just what will be the impact of his election as the 47th President of the United States of America here in the country? Brana Mwai tells us more.
America's 45th president is making a major political comeback in both national and global politics, making him once again the 47th president of the United States after a resounding win in the November 5th elections.
We have thousands of friends on this incredible movement.
Donald Trump has trounced Vice President Kamala Harris in the hotly contested election, signaling a shift in U.S. policies on global affairs. Here in Kenya, Trump's win has sparked discussions about potential changes in the U.S.-Kenya relationship, from trade to diplomatic ties. During his previous term, Trump focused heavily on America First policies, often limiting aid and partnerships in Africa.
I try to look at Trump's administration between 2016 and 2020. If you're keen enough, between 2017 and 2020, Trump had stringent measures on visas. So it was a little bit difficult for many citizens all over the world to get into the US, trying to really minimize the number of immigrants who would probably find themselves in the US. Chances are that to protect American interest is likely also to tighten the visas to the US.
For Kenya, the new leadership in America could impact ongoing collaborations such as trade agreements, healthcare, and educational exchanges.
Kenya, if you're to look at our GDP and our economy, majority of our remittances in the Republic of Kenya comes from the US. Majority of our remittances come from the US. It means majority of Kenyans who are working in the US, doing business in the US, send a lot of cash over here. To some extent, this helps in the economic activity and growing of our economy. So if you reduce the number of Kenyans who can probably access that market through probably non-tariff barriers and tariff barriers, most of our products will not find place in the US.
In May this year, President William Ruto went for a state visit to the first world country, a visit that was touted as one that will present Kenya and the US opportunities to collaborate. However, the agreement might not see the light of day with the incoming of Trump.
My only worry is, sometimes there are a number of projects that you can secure as deals, but projects that may depend on political goodwill. And so therefore, this one raises the question of now, will there be political goodwill from the current president-elect, that is Donald Trump, in trying to accomplish some of these secured deals? Or could he probably change his mindset and say that this was not a priority. So no need of executing this, no need of implementing that. Therefore, when looking at Kenya, our interest is now specifically security. Therefore, the so-called mega infrastructural development, the Nairobi-Mombasa highway, we can shelve it.
Meanwhile, Kamala Harris' loss ends her historic run as the first female and first African-American vice president. Despite a spirited campaign, the vice president did not manage to win the 270 electoral college votes needed to succeed Joe Biden.
Biden handpicked Kamala. So again, it raises question on the democratic ideals within the Democratic Party. Was the process of nomination democratic? That is another subject of debate. Yes, because some felt like, yes, we are a Democratic Party. But does it mean that the appointment of Kamala is democratic? To some extent, I tend to think a number of Democrats were not really enticed by this candidature. And then finally look at the entire... when now Trump came with this. Too big to rig was a calculated move, well-executed strategy. When you say too big to rig, number one, there's what we call politics of perception. You are creating a perception towards your followers that this thing is too big to rig. You're already winning.
Brian Amuai, K24.
Well, of course, Donald Trump becomes the first president to be re-elected after Grover, first former vice president to be re-elected after Grover Cleveland did regain White House in 1892. We shift gears to matters education now, and the government has ruled out funding free university education, citing an unaffordable 900 billion shillings cost. This announcement follows concerns raised by members of parliament over potential misuse of funds allocated to government-sponsored students placed in private universities. The Kenya University and Colleges Central Placement Services has admitted it cannot track these students, leaving uncertainty about fund distribution. Meanwhile, the University Funds Board has suspended second semester disbursements pending a court ruling. Harriet Shimea tells us more.
The university funding crisis continues to deepen, with second semester students facing the possibility of missing out on government funding due to the suspension of the new university funding model.
There is a court order that has been given, so the funds have not been released for these students who are in first and second year. Once this issue is resolved, we don't know which direction it will take. We already paid for them in the first semester. Most of the students had been paid during the first semester. The problem will even be greater if it persists.
Even more worrying, some government-sponsored students report they have only received upkeep funds, while tuition fees from the government remain unpaid.
My portal says that I'm supposed to be paying around 250,000, and the calculations showed that my household should be paying around 78 to 80,000. To mean that there is this percentage that the government is supposed to be paying, of which up to now the government has not paid it, to mean that in the portal it is still hanging.
Upkeep was disbursed, I think, last month. I received 25,000 from the government, but fees not yet.
We are aware that there are students who have actually dropped out. There are students who have got issues with the fees because of the amount of money the government was sending. As at this year, the government has funded students in private university at an amount of 8,000 per student, which is quite low for their fees. So students who cannot afford are forced to drop out. That is a concern to us, and we have written to the National Treasury to be able to fund
these. As the ministry officials stated that despite the funding snarl-up, their hands are tied and they cannot revert to the old funding model due to the ongoing court case. As for the idea of free university education, officials confirm it is off the table as it would require an estimated 900 billion shillings, a cost the government claims it cannot bear. MPs have also raised concerns over possible misuse of funds allocated to government-sponsored students placed in private universities. This comes after the Kenya Universities and College Central Placement Services committed to see
universities are not compelled to give the the data to COOPs. And that's why I mentioned that when we developed the platform for them, we have had 100% compliance from the public universities. But it is out of goodwill. So if we can be able to amend the Act to ensure that it is a requirement for the institutions to actually report to help us track these students as they continue, because those who fall out, those who die, or for various reasons they are not able to complete, they shouldn't be funded. We are increasing our budget for ICT annually, and I can commit to this.
Harriet Chimea, K24.
Now that story by Harriet Chimea takes us to a fast break. I'll be back in a moment.
I know mko na talents, lakini mko na vibe. It's time to discover East Africa's newest talent. Ni muda wa Kenya kuchachisha.